Hey everybody, welcome back. Now today is a very special day. So a lot of the videos I do, we're doing stuff for customers, we're doing builds just for educational purposes and to help people out. But today I want to introduce you to the rat hole. Now this is a 1985 S10 pickup that I purchased, or actually I acquired it. I actually traded it for an engine block and a set of cylinder heads. The truck is very clean. It does have a steel cowl induction hood on it. Now, it originally had a 2.8 liter V6 engine. It's a 1985 S10 extended or extra cab. It's got the little extension behind the cab with the extra window. Is, it's not very big, but it's basically what they call an extended cab S10 pickup. Came with an automatic transmission and a 2.8 liter. Now, I've done 2 or 3 S10 swaps over the years that turned out pretty good. Swapped small block Chevys 350, did a 383, a couple of 350s and a 383 stroker, and they run pretty good. The nice thing about S10 pickups is, number one, they're cheap, and number two, it's a good solid full frame truck, and also they're really light. So if you put a big engine in them, you can build a pretty amazing street rod that's fast on a budget for very little money. So this is my personal truck. I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm doing it for me. And get this, to top it off, I am not going to swap this with a small block. I'm not going to put a 350 in it. I am going to put a V8 in it, but it's going to be a big block 427. Now, shoehorning a big block 427 into one of these takes a little more work, but it can be done. There's a bunch of them on YouTube. They do big blocks in these. So today's goal is to get the 350, is to get the front clip off of the rat hole. Now the reason we call it the rat hole is because, well, a small block Chevy is a mouse, for those of you that know your history, and a big block Chevy has always been known as a mouse, or as a rat. I'm also going to walk you through the building of that 427 when we get to that point. But today, our agenda is just to kind of see what we're working with and get the front clip off of the rat hole. Here we go. For any hood removal, guys, what you want to do is you either want to scribe a line here or mark where the hood is so it fits back on there when you get it, when you go to put it back on. You want to kind of hang on to this. We'll take this last bolt out of here. Like I said, stuff's pretty lightweight. Nice thing about this hood is it's a all steel cowl hood, replacement hood. Very nice. My hood bolts, I'm going to put them back in the hood. Now the kid I bought the truck from did me a big favor. He was already going to do a V8 swap, so he pulled the 2.8 liter V6 out completely. He did half the work for me. So all I got to do is get the front clip off there. Now on your fenders, some of the bolts that hold the fenders on, to locate them, have shims underneath them. You want to make sure you keep those shims where they go and mark them, because that's what centers the fender. So you'll notice as you take the fenders off, take these bolts out, you're going to find shims in various places under the bolts. Those have to go back in if you want this to line up perfectly. you kind of want to take your time taking this thing apart and make sure you keep everything in order. Do it orderly and organized. When you go to put the front clip back on, it's going to make your life way easier. So we're going to start by taking some of the smaller core support stuff off of here. And these bolts here along here are the ones that hold the fenders on. So we're going to get those out. We're going to get the grill and all this stuff off. But again, keep everything in order. I've got a bunch of paper bags, and I'm going to label them and put these parts in them as I go. One thing you want to do when you take a front clip off anything, as much as possible, take all the little bolts that hold the brackets and every little thing on and put them back in there where they go, because there's a lot of little brackets and just a large amount of stuff. It might not hurt to take digital pictures of everything too as you take it apart. That's one of the things I'm doing, because it's probably going to be several months before this goes back on. So keep track of everything, put all the bolts where they go, mark, label. It's going to make your life so much easier when you go to put this stuff back together. Okay, so we got the front bumper off. Now, obviously I turned the camera off and did some of this because it's kind of time consuming to do this. My advice is take your time, don't get in a hurry. The front bumper is in really good shape. It's chrome on this thing, and we want to keep that. And again, all of these bolts, there's a bolt and a chromed head that goes here. You want to put all these bolts back into the bumper, and then of course set the bumper aside to a safe place. Set it aside for your reassembly. But frame mounts. All right. Like so. All right, there's your core support. Now, if I was doing a small block, I'd be happy to stop right there. I would have no problem putting the engine in like that. But since we're doing a big block and it's going to have custom-made headers, those fender wells are going away. So the headers are actually going to come off and go into the fender well area. I'm not going to be running fender wells. So the next step is to get these fenders off, and we're almost there. So we'll get them loose and get them off of there. So you want to, like I said, keep stuff in order. Now, the fender wells on this thing are going bye-bye. We're not using them, so I didn't bother bagging up the bolts and stuff, but I think we've got this fender well pretty much out of here with the section of stuff that's attached to it. So just kind of finagle that out. It doesn't want to come out of there. There's probably another bolt in it. Fender well did come out. It was just kind of jammed up in there. I just kind of manhandled it and got it out. Now the fender's off, but there are two bolts, guys. You got to open the door and get them from inside. You got to have a long extension, a 13 millimeter. Once I get those off, this fender should come off of here. Okay, so we got some wires hooked up to it here. We got a hose going to our, and an electrical plug. Going to this washer bottle here. fender well. We're going to repeat the same thing on the other side, and you got it. Make sure you save all the bolts, bag them up. Okay guys, so this is the point we've gotten it to. Now, off camera, I finished taking the rest of that clip off. I just kind of took the harness and set it aside up there, and I did put some degreaser on here and let it sit for about an hour, rinsed it off, and then I just shot it with some rattle can semi-gloss paint. That's about as far as I'm gonna go as far as detail. This is definitely a budget build, and so I am not gonna spend tons of time, you know, cleaning this up. It's good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, it looks okay for what it is. So the frame is definitely narrower than a full-size truck on this, obviously. So now I don't know, I left the mounts on, I left the pump on here because I kind of want to see how that's going to interact with the block, and I also left the 2.8 mounts on. Now there's a guy on the internet that has a big block in an S10, and it's about the same year as this, and he claims that he used the 2.8 mounts for his big block. I'm kind of skeptical of that, but you know, he says he did it, and so I was gonna hoist my 427 block, which is sitting right there. I was gonna hoist that over and put it up there. I've already got it bored and everything. I still got to deck it and so forth. But man, it's pretty heavy. I'd have to get the hoist over there somehow. But I called my buddy Larry, and I was talking to him, and it turns out he has a plastic mock-up big block Chevy. So I'm going over there tomorrow morning to borrow that block, and that way I can get the block down in there and we can take a look and see, you know, just exactly where this thing's going to sit, whether or not I'm going to have to. Another thing that I've heard is that you got to change the upper control arms and put one that's more streamlined on there. But the guy that was doing that said he had to do that because his headers didn't really work very well. And he had some headers that he had bought and put on. Now this, we're going to do fender well headers on this. Basically, we're going to try to stuff the headers right down there. And then back in here somewhere. So the nice thing is, a friend of mine's son builds custom-made headers, and once we get the mock-up and everything in place, he's going to come out and he's going to do some measuring and stuff, and he's going to fab the headers right on the truck. It's really the only way. I mean, there's a couple of ways of doing it, but it's by far going to be the easiest for us. I'd rather just pay him or do some trading or something with him to have him just make the headers on this thing. And the headers will probably come down here over the frame rail, and they just run down under the frame here and then go into the middle of the truck. The truck does have they put dual exhaust on it, so it does have pretty good sized dual exhaust back here. Now that was hooked up to the V6, and it's a cat back system, but they've got a really nice about 2.5 inch pipe running back here, so I cut the front of the exhaust off. I think I can use the back half of this exhaust. It's 2.5 inches, so I think I can just fabricate up to the headers where they left off back there, because there's a good size, you know, exhaust pipe back there. So yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be you know, a lot of work, but it's looking good. So I'm going to end it right there, and if you want to follow along with this, you can. It's going to be pretty cool. I also have the 2.8 liter transmission that I'm going to either sell cheap or give away. It does have a torque converter. That was a working transmission, so but I don't need it. Oh, also I took the the AC blower and stuff, all of that off. That's the blower motor. This truck is not going to have AC or heat. It is, if it's extremely hot or extremely cold out, I'm not going to drive it. So it's basically a drive it around on the street, occasionally radical street rod. Oh, and we're also, my buddy Terry, who's a really good fabricator, he is going to help me change the rear end and do a 4-link in this thing, and we're going to tub it. So we're going to take the fender wells, we're going to double the size. I'm going to get a factory fender well or bed or something from an S10, and we're going to double the size of this fender well and put about a 13-inch wide tire with a tubbed rear end on here. So it's going to be pretty cool truck. All right, well, I appreciate you watching, and stick around for more of this. I haven't done an actual vehicle project in a long time, probably 15 years. So and I've been wanting to do this. There's my big block Chevy heads that I've finished up with the big valves and some porting and everything. Those are 781s. I'll walk you through the build on the engine. I got a bunch of parts for that engine I'm getting ready to take to the balance shop. So I've got a forged crank, I've got really nice dome pistons, I've got some scat forged rods. So I'm gonna put a little money into the engine. When I say budget build, I'm definitely not talking about the engine. I'm talking about the vehicle itself. I have about $700 into this truck right now, and the steel cowl hood is about $500 for this thing. So I figure I paid for the hood and got the truck for $200, and the truck's clean. I mean, it's definitely, and it even has ghost flames on the side. I don't know how well you can see that, but there's ghost flames here. The red seats inside, I don't know about those, but everything's here, and so it's going to make a real nice little street rod. I love these S10s built up as street rods because it's basically the same configuration as the old muscle cars from the 70s. It's a full frame vehicle, and it's really super light and compact. So, all right, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you very soon, I promise.